another episode of Design Divas. I'm Pavitra Sriprakash and I'm with Sheila Sriprakash of Shilpa Architects and Planners Designers in Chennai. And today we're going to talk about another very relevant topic in architecture and design that seems to be impacting us on an everyday basis, and that is Vastu Shastra. So, ma'am, welcome to the episode, and I just wanted to try and talk to you a little bit about Vastu. So, in the 90s, when this did sort of, hit you as a new requirement or a new learning, what was your first project at that point? Do you remember?
Yes, I do. Because these were two houses for two brothers that I designed in Bhimavaram, and very lovely site. It was
Bhimavaram is in Andhra.
Is in Andhra,
right?
And these people came and gave me mandates about how many feet, how many inches, and the fraction of an inch,
right,
that needed to be
very detailed.
Yeah, it was very detailed. So I was quite daunted because I didn't know how to get the marking done on site, because we did not have that level of precision even with measurements at site.
Right.
So I had to tell them that I will round it off to the closest eighth of an inch, and then you will have to manage the marking at site. Right. So that was my first experience with
wow. And how has it sort of evolved from there? I mean, that sounds like a very what do you call it, a very serious start, in the sense it went from 0 to almost 100 in overnight.
Absolutely. So then, it got me interested to understand, like I wanted to learn what this really was.
Sure.
So, and it was a good opportunity because, I was invited to the Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. And there also they wanted me to talk to them about Vastu.
Interesting. And so, this was in the early 2000s?
Yes, yes.
Right.
So what I did was I went through the Atharvana Veda books and, tried to see what was the evolution of this science.
Perfect, yes.
And it was really fascinating, Pavitra.
Yeah.
Actually, the first house was always emulated from the form of a tree.
Oh, okay.
So it had one single support with a canopy, because a tree gave shelter. So obviously that inspired people into designing their homes similarly. And then after a point, they found that the stalk or the stem in the middle is an obstruction, and therefore when that and larger spans were required. So when that was an obstruction, they started saying that it's the Brahmastalam, so you cannot have anything in the center, so you needed to have peripheral supports.
Okay, interesting how that evolved. Yes.
So this is how it kind of came into being.
Lovely.
And almost all the houses were at that time circular in form.
Right.
And then,
or a courtyard home, right? Something in the middle which was very climate responsive.
Right.
Also.
And then after that came these square houses, square or rectangular houses with a courtyard, as you said.
Right.
So the courtyard became the lung space, and then we are all in the tropical, hot, humid, and hot, dry climates. So the courtyard was a wonderful answer to ventilation and being the lung of the house. So I think this was a natural evolution.
Very nice.
And this is how it evolved. And
yeah. That's really interesting that you take it back to the Atharvana Veda and trying to understand what it was that really sort of shaped the tenets of what we follow as modern day Vastu principles. So from there onwards, what else did you find? I know in the studios you talk to all of us a lot about the mandalas and the Vastu Purusha. So talk to us a little bit more about the actual, Vedic science behind this.
So they say that this is what is called as Manasara. And in Tamil, we say Manaivi. So, the horoscope of the lady of the house is also very important.
Right.
And then they had measurements based on angulams. Angulams before the unit measurement came into being.
An angulam is like an inch.
Is approximately an inch,
yes.
and it is the distance between the the thumb and your first marker on the thumb.
Yeah.
So that in cases of rajas and all that, his particular angulam was taken, and those measurements were replicated, and they were extrapolated from this basic dimension for him. So it is really wonderful, and the way it has evolved, and this is how it evolved. And then after a point it became interpretation.
Right. But I want to kind of bring us back to this, the Vastu Purusha themselves, because there is this one diagram that is, the one that sort of dictates the different moolams, and the Agni Moolam and the Kubera Moolam, and things that I think people now are very, very familiar with. So maybe you can just walk us through the different quadrants of what that was.
Right. So this is a Vastu Purusha and his position on the earth.
Right.
And the Vastu Purusha's head is always facing northeast.
Right.
Even it's very strange that even in the yajnams or the homams that we do, the positioning or the movement is from the southwest to the northeast.
So it has a very Vedic sort of a root.
Vedic root. So why? It is because the Pitrus are part of the southwest corner. Pitrus or your forefathers. And then you move. The movement is diagonal, and it is towards the head of the god, the Isanam. Right. So that's the Isanam. So you have the Isanam Moola, where today's interpretation is that you cannot put weight.
Right. I mean, that tends to be where we place a double height, or the entrances are on the northeast.
And it says that you have to put a lot of weight in the Pitra Moola,
which is the southwest opposite.
And I have also heard this is because it makes the Vastu Purusha buoyant.
Right.
His head bobs up. So that is what you need.
Right. You need him looking up, not looking down.
Not looking down.
Okay.
So this is the way it went.
Nice. So, I think it's got a nice kind of a historic logic to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it has. And this was going on, and then of course we have the Agni Moola. And what is the Agni Moola is another thing.
Mm-hmm.
See, when we are doing temples and things like this, there is a Homa Kundam, which is the Agni Moola.
Right.
Or is it the cooking area, which is the Agni Moola?
Also could be interpreted as
the Agni Moola. So in a house, it was said that the cooking had to be done either in the Agni Moola or on the northwest as a second priority.
So this then talks about the southeast and the northwest. Right.
Southeast and the northwest. And always when we look to the sun god, we look at the east. The soul is supposed to travel northwards and eastwards, looking at Isanam.
Okay.
So always the entries are either preferred to be either in the east or on the north.
So it's been interesting to hear, how your experience of not having heard about Vastu at all, like through the 70s and 80s, to suddenly being given
Exposed
requirements
to it,
with inches and fractions and things like that. But after that, like after the 90s, there's been a steady sort of increase in, awareness in general about this topic. So how have you seen this sort of influence architectural design, and where did it start, and how has it sort of kind of transformed today?
See, originally it was only restricted to individual homes. So
right, because it was very personal. You talked about, the size of the king's thumb, and, it was highly customized.
Very customized.
Right.
And therefore it was, it started off with, southwest having heavier. So interpretation of what is heavier, which means it's the owner or the head of the family stays there.
Right.
And then you have the Agni Moola in the southeast, where you have the kitchen. And then, the Vayu Moola, because it's the breeze corner, you have guest rooms and things like that, which are not so permanent in the house.
Right.
And then, you have the northeast, which is given to the senior people or the youngsters for learning. and
right, because
it's more towards the spiritual journey from the southwest to the northeast.
Right.
So this was the basic.
And I guess it would work very easily on a single family kind of a
Yes.
plot, but then it went beyond that, didn't it?
Yes. So then when it started getting interpreted as for apartments, they said it is 70% of the apartments are Vastu compliant, because when in apartments you generally tend to mirror and tend to bring the services together, etc., for efficiencies.
Right,
So,
because I mean obviously when we're planning down takes and pipes and things like that, it makes sense to
put the toilets
things together, and then in that case then what is in the northeast of one becomes the northwest of another, and then
right,
maybe it doesn't
right.
match.
It doesn't match. So then we had to kind of devise, when the public became a little more wanting in Vastu compliant homes, then we started going from 70% Vastu compliant homes to 100% Vastu compliant. That is, every home in the in the development is Vastu compliant.
Correct. And now I think people also go to the extent of saying, we don't really believe in Vastu, but to be able to resell the house,
absolutely,
we need it to be Vastu.
Absolutely.
So it's not even just it's like it's such an accepted or expected parameter of a design product or of a residential product that it becomes not marketable beyond a certain point.
Yes.
And you've seen that shift actually happen.
Absolutely. So now today I think most of the homes, that is multiple dwelling units that are done and high rises that are done, are all absolutely Vastu compliant.
Right. And also it's been interesting because you mentioned Bhimavaram, which I believe that it's probably from the south that a lot of these aspects started. But what do you feel that it's now a nationwide phenomenon?
It is a nationwide phenomenon. Even in the north, people
I know in Delhi
people are talking about it. Why we even designed a Vastu compliant home in California, Pavitra.
Right.
It is so strange. So in San Francisco, overlooking the Golden Bridge, there was this beautiful site, and it was a tapering site,
right?
And we had to do Vastu compliance.
Well, yes, I guess it's the sentiment that people want to move with. So it's very interesting.
Right.
So just to kind of talk a little bit about my experience with it, right? So in the last almost 2.5 decades, at first when I started practicing it, the difference between your college education and mine was that in my education time, by then it had become a subject.
Yeah.
So we would at least somewhat,
you knew that it was there
to it. And it was some very few select classmates of mine also, I remember, would have specialized in it to study it or to take it further and things like that. But since then, for the first decade or so of my work, it didn't really affect me. But then very soon, I was faced with a similar learning curve, and the demand was that, like you rightly said, it doesn't matter that it is a multi-residential unit, and sometimes calls were made in favor of Vastu, in terms of just marking it, figuring out where the Brahmastalam was, not placing cores in certain areas, because in a high-rise building what starts happening is the heaviest element starts becoming the staircase or the fire tower and the fire core. So where we place that and how we place that. And very often, even if we kind of bring in all the aspects of Vastu that we know, there is a Vastu specialist who comes in with that little zing factor, that one factor that probably works for that particular family or location, and then we kind of have to make some amends to even a multi-product offering to be able to comply with what works for the family.
Yeah, when we have to tie the master planning level Vastu
right
with the micro planning level Vastu.
Correct.
Then you have to take a call on which takes precedence. So
correct.
There the Vastu expert comes and gives his input, and then we have to decipher whether it's the master planning which matters or the micro planning that matters.
Right, and just to give an example of that, like on a 10 or 11 acre site, on the whole site, entrance being on the northeast, the whole transformer yard, which is the electrical being in the southeast, all those placements start getting dictated by
Very
Vastu,
challenging.
along with unit number so and so on the 20th floor,
Being
having
Vastu
the
compliant.
kitchen in the southeast to everything. So it's like it kind of starts becoming a little bit like a Rubik's cube. You just have to keep juggling it until you get the right mix. So it's and I've also kind of seen it as something in my practice where I've kind of learnt all these kind of
Preferences.
yeah, through the times.
Yeah, but one thing is very important is that whoever is living in their particular home has to be mentally satisfied, and for them to be mentally calm and satisfied, if they know that their house is built as per Vastu, it gives them a certain level of confidence.
Right.
I think to move forward in their lives.
Right, and I think that I've also found that in energy practices and things like that. There are certain strains of Vastu that actually look at the flow of energy through the house, and that sort of aligns with the science of it. Not so much the historic Vedic aspect of it, but the science of it. And I think that aligning with the meridian and making sure that the energy is flowing well through a house makes absolute sense.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's Vastu has really taken over as one of the most important parameters of design. Yeah.
While at first it felt like these were additional constraints, like as it is the development control rules places constraints on the design, while these now felt like the placements of things were all additionally sort of becoming quite rigid in terms of how it worked. What have you found that have been some of your like hacks or little tricks where you've managed to tick that box where the client says it has to be Vastu compliant but also has to be architecturally quite nice?
Yeah, the fact that we can terrace a building right from the southwest to the northeast, provided the road is on the
correct, right, of course,
on the north or the east, it is an interesting aspect. And then you have this courtyard in the center,
correct,
which is a good thing because I think that also responds to our climate.
Right.
And therefore it's a nice feature, it's a lung space that you can create. So that is another thing. And then dealing with water. So how can you integrate water in your design? So in the northeast corner, when they say water is good,
some nice landscape
feature, some landscape feature, or if you're able to bring water from the southwest into flowing towards the northeast, then it creates a certain cascading design element which could be a good feature.
Right.
So and then bringing in sunlight.
Of course, yeah.
Sunlight. So how you bring in sunlight? So in the center, if you have a courtyard, you bring the sunlight in.
Well, that's been a very interesting discussion on Vastu Shastra and how it has sort of had its journey through our journey of architecture. Please do like, share and subscribe for more such content from Shilpa Architects. And that's a wrap for Design Divas today. Thank you.
Thank you.